At the end of the sales call, they said they love your offer. They just need like 24 hours to get some things in order, but they are all in. And then they ghost. What happened? So many people hardly believe me when I say that I almost never get ghosted. In this video, I'm going to tell you why that is, what I have in place, and what I do on a sales call in nurturing my relationships as well that prevents that from happening, and how you can do it too. But first, I want to talk about why this happens in the first place and what's actually going on, because it could be a few different things, and it's really, really key that you know what that is. Thanks so much for stopping by my channel. I'm Jana Nixa, the Authentic Sales Coach. I help coaches, consultants, and service-based entrepreneurs create high-ticket offers that sell, and then teach them how to sell them in an authentic, serving, and loving way so that you can get more clients consistently and you don't feel like you're throwing spaghetti against the wall on a daily basis. So let's dig into this whole ghosting thing and what's actually going on and how to prevent it in your business. The first reason that I believe this happens is, don't shoot the messenger. You didn't do a good enough job either in the rapport building portion of the call, or even in your content, to start to lay the foundation for who you are and how you help with a lot of clarity. So what a lot of people will do is they'll use one of the most common objections, right? Like, that's too much money. Let me think about it. Or I need to talk to my partner. The reason that they do that is oftentimes they're not sold and they don't know how to tell you. And what I see a lot of my clients do, and I used to see it way back in my sales career. I spent over 2 decades as a top performing sales executive, and I would mentor people in the field, and you could tell they were trying to avoid the red flags that were coming up. These clients were giving them obvious resistance throughout the sales calls in certain areas. So instead of diffusing that bomb and going straight in, they kind of avoid it and pretend like, oh, I don't want to look over there. Whereas what you actually want to do is, as much as possible on the front end of your call, in your content and in any modality where you're speaking your ideal client's language, is you want to start to dissolve that resistance on the front end as much as possible. Let's say they don't know you, they haven't seen your content. So now we have to do it on the sales call. So when they start bringing up resistance, like, oh, all you coaches, you just want to make a buck. Instead of going, ha, 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 and on to the next question, you want to go into it, right? We got to look fear in the face. Yeah, I totally understand. I get that. I've been in it too, right? They need to be seen, heard, validated and like, I'm the same way. It's happened to me too, only if that's true. But here's the real deal. Here's what makes me unique. Here's what this program is going to give you that those don't, right? We have to be willing to face that resistance head on, ideally before you present the offer and the price, because that way it's not going to come up on the back end as much. So if we haven't built that rapport, if we haven't met them and we're trying to avoid that conflict, or if we haven't laid the groundwork in our content prior to the call, you did not get them where they wanted to go. You just weren't able to deliver the level of certainty that they needed, the level of clarity that they needed. There was a lot of resistance there that you were not willing to go there and take on with them. And for that reason, they're going to say, hey, I need to think about it, right? And because you didn't ask the tough questions, because you didn't really go there, you are none the wiser. You think everything's great and they're just going to go think about it. But what they're doing is getting off the call and avoiding telling you, calling your baby ugly. The second reason this happens, let's just pretend like you did, like you went there, you built that rapport, you handled some of that resistance on the front end. You weren't afraid to have some of the tougher conversations, right? And then you get to the end and they're like, this sounds good. Let me think about it. What a lot of people won't do then is say, awesome. You need to qualify. You need to know where you stand. We have to be direct. There's no way around it. This is not pushy. This is just understanding like where they are. And so it's like, awesome. You say it's good. I would love to know what sounds good means to you. So on a scale of 1 to 10, is this like a 10 out of 10? Like you are just like on fire, like a full body yes? Or is it something else? Let them tell you how sold they actually are. Because again, we have to ask those tough questions in order to know where we stand. Otherwise, we're just kind of like, It's sort of like posting and praying with content, just like, I don't know. And instead, we just really have to go in there and be clear and be direct and just hear what they have to say, because it will come out at that point 99.9% of the time, right? Because now you've asked them straight up. And so they'll say like a 7 out of 10 or maybe a 6 or 8. And you're like, okay, I really appreciate your honesty. Like, what would make it a 10 out of 10? And then see what they say and then handle it from there. They could say, this has happened to me several times because I have a lot of different incredible pieces to my bonus. So I'm not going to spend the entire sales call going through every nook and cranny if I don't think it applies to them, if I don't think it's a hot button of theirs, if I don't think it's a needle moving piece of my offer, I won't mention it. Right? This is exactly what I teach inside my container. Like, don't throw everything in the kitchen sink. More is not better for high ticket. They want targeted, they want fast. They don't want just a bunch of stuff. And so when I've asked this question before, I've heard things like, well, I've actually really want to do an event. And, this your offer doesn't seem to cover that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I actually do. That's one of my bonuses. I didn't even know that was important to this lady. So it afforded me the opportunity to go back, reconcile that. And then she said yes. Now, if they say a 10 out of 10, you're like, awesome. So now we can kind of go into a little bit more, okay, why do they need to think about it then, right? I mean, it's a 10 out of 10. You came to this call because you have a problem. I've demonstrated clearly to you that I can solve it, and I can solve it different than anyone else, which is key. You got to know how to communicate that without being pushy or weird. You've also completely demonstrated that not only do you know how to get them where they want to go, that you full blown have done it many, many times. You are the expert, and this is basically a no-brainer for them. So then really the last piece, once you've laid that foundation and built that rapport, is, if you say it's a 10 out of 10, you feel like this is exactly what you need to get you where you want to go. And with neutral curiosity, this is key. This is why this is why sales scripts do not work, because it's not what you say, it's who you are when you say it. And with full-blown curiosity and complete neutrality, because this is not about me, it is about them getting out of whatever pain they're in, getting over to Pleasure Island, if you will. And it's like, well, what is it that's kind of coming up for you now? Like, what is it that there's to think about, and let them talk. And you could also go even deeper and say, again, totally hear you. I get it. Tell me more about what are you afraid of that's going to happen by investing in this. So again, you can see the common theme here. And the common theme is don't delay or avoid the inevitable. Like, we have to get to it, because this is why people ghost. And you think everything went great, but I didn't ask any tough questions. They just gave me all the answers I wanted to hear and said they're going to think about it. And I never heard from them again. And that's because you didn't go there with them. You didn't get them to open up to the point where they know they wouldn't ghost you. And the last reason people will tell you this is because they're afraid. It's not that they're like, oh, I just need more time to make a decision, right? Like, they've been thinking about this for a while, most people, if they're in that much pain. It's been on their mind. They've been thinking about it, right? So it's like, how long have you been dealing with this? How long have you been thinking about it, right? The real thing, as you're walking through this with neutrality, this is why energy is everything. And this is why I believe scripts don't work, because you can't be all up in your head. Like, you have to hold space for them to walk through this and feel good about it. Not pressured, not convinced, not manipulated. I want people to be like, yes, totally. I feel it. It's a yes, right? When we are walking them through that last piece, it's not that they can't make a decision. It's that they're afraid they're going to make the wrong decision. And so can we get them to admit that? The truth is, they've been thinking about this for a long time. They know they need to make a change. They know that this sounds really good. All the stars are aligning, but they're just afraid to pull that trigger. You can always really level with them and say, I get it. Like, what are you afraid of? What do you really think is going on? It will usually come out that they don't know if it can work for them, or I'm afraid of failing, or I'm afraid of investing and not showing up. And then you can walk them through that. I always say this is when your coaching begins, but you got to be willing to go there. And if you're not willing to go there with a full heart and in your power and not in force, then people just really won't feel fully seen and heard, and they'll feel like it's okay to ghost you. But if you can go there with them and take them to the real fear underneath that they may not even be fully conscious of, and they're just telling themselves, I need to think about it, then you will for sure build so much more trust and rapport with them. And so the reason, to summarize, that people ghost you is because you haven't been willing to go there with them. You are avoiding the harder conversations, the harder questions. You're not going head on into to the resistance because you're afraid of what they're going to say. And whatever you're afraid of is going to come up in the end. And if you guys can't level with each other, then why not? Of course you're going to get ghosted. They didn't level with you either. So they're like, maybe next time. Okay, so those are the main reasons, but I do want to speak to two more things. One is some people do like to not make decisions on the spot. So you have to hold space for that too. Once you go through this and you're willing to have the tough conversations and really get to the heart of the matter. If they say, Jana, I appreciate you and I promise I will get back to you in 24 hours. I just want to sleep on it. Then you want to honor that. But here's how I honor it. I say, I completely understand. I hear you. I'm that way too about big decisions. I get it. So long as you know, you feel like this is the right thing, What I do want to caution you on is how you're feeling right now is that full body yes. That is like spirit, soul talk, right? And once we get out of this situation and out of inspiration, your ego will set in and it will start to tell you stories because your ego wants to keep you right where you are. It doesn't like the unknown and it doesn't like being out of the comfort zone. So just consider that as you're thinking through this or sleeping on it, that your ego, the longer you go, the more it is going to try to work against you and talk you out of it. So just know that's happening. And chances are that's exactly why you haven't taken action on this prior, is because you've actually let your fear come into the equation. And that's when things kind of go off the rails. So at least now they know when that little small voice, that little small me voice comes in, they can go, oh, okay. I know what that is, but that's, of course, it's going to pipe up because it wants me to stay right where I am, but that's not what I want. Help them understand that that's what's happening. But again, from a place of service, not from your ego. That's what makes the sales process that I do so different than anything else I've ever seen out there, because it is truly about them taking action on their dreams, not you making the sale. So in these objection handling, as people call it, what I like to do is help them walk through their fear, stand there with them, guide them, lead them. And last thing I'm going to say, if you've done all of this, and this has happened to me, I can think of like once or twice ever in decades of sales. Okay. I'm sure I'm forgetting like one or two, but the point is this: if I've done all of those things and I've spent that time with you and you've opened up and we've really had that heart to heart and you told me and looked me in the eye and said, this is a 10 out of 10. I am so in, this is me. And then we book a call to follow up after your 24 hours or whatever you said you needed, and you don't show, and then I don't hear from you again, you're not my client. I would never do that to somebody. I would never not show. And if for whatever reason I had to, there was an emergency or whatever, I can promise you I would get in touch with that person. And I expect the same in return. We're all human beings with busy lives. We're moms. We own our own businesses. But the least we can do is be kind to one another and respect one another. I can tell you right now, if there's a client that did that to me, I would have a seriously hard time getting back on a call with them, because to me, that's a reflection of character. I wouldn't do that to someone else. Even the people they haven't done any rapport establishing with me, I try to be kind to them, even in the DMs most of the time. What goes around comes around there. I want to work with people who are big enough to come back to somebody and say, it's not the right fit for me in one way or another. So I want you to hold that too, because it is about that energy at the end of the day. We aren't for everybody. That's okay. But have the heart to tell me, don't leave me hanging. And I would do the same for you in return. And the more you can hold yourself at that higher standard, because at the end of the day, it's all frequency and energy, right? The more you're going to attract more people into your field that also hold that level of integrity. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel. We have new content coming out every week. If you want to go deeper into this, click the link below and get on our waiting list or sign up for our next boot camp, where we're going to go into this topic and so much more so that you can start getting clients consistently. It's not as hard as you think, and you're not as far away as you may feel. It's really just a few key skill sets that you want to go deep on that will make all the difference in the world. So if you want to join us and go deeper, click the link below. We actually have one coming up in about a month from now, if you're watching this video now. Otherwise, you can get on our waiting list for the next one, because we usually have an event about every other month. We do challenges around this topic. We do boot camps around this topic and master classes. So if that's you, join us. Come in and go VIP so that you can truly get everything out of this experience. That is where the magic and the massive transformation happens, even before coming inside of my program. Thank you again so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.